Hey, this is Drew here from Critical Sound Labs, and today we're going to be talking about compression and different ways that you can use a compressor. If you have any questions after this video, don't hesitate to go to our website www.criticalsoundlabs.com. Sign up for our email list. That way you'll get a lot of information that you just won't get from just the regulars looking at Facebook or whatever, or even you'll get more information in regards to our YouTube channel. You can go there, get more information. But let's get into the topic, which is compression. Okay, so first of all, a compressor, what it does, what most people know about compression is it basically tames a signal. Okay, that's the first way a compressor can be used. But there's also other ways that you use a compressor. So let's talk about one of my favorite compressors. It's called the Fairchild 670. It's an old school compressor, had a lot of tubes, and so a lot of people will use this particular compressor just to give a certain tonal character to an instrument or a vocal, mainly vocals, because of the amount of tubes that was put into this particular compressor. So a lot of people don't use it for its compression capabilities. They just use it for its tonal capabilities. And that is one way that you can use a compressor. Another compressor that's something like that for its tonal character, well, there's a lot of them, but the Fairchild 670, again, that's one of them. Another one that I really like is the LA3A. The LA3A, that one has a certain character because of a solid state. It's not like the LA2A, but the LA3A is solid state, so it reacts quicker. And you can put it, for me, I can put it on a lot more different things. Say, for example, I can put it on a vocal, a lead vocal, background vocal, kick, snare, and, it has a limited amount of meters or whatever, or buttons or different characters on it. So you really can't mess it up, basically. That's what I'm trying to get to. So I like the LA3A. It has its own, it's very smooth. It has its own character to it. So, and because of its smoothness and its transparency, a lot of people use that particular compressor on a large variety of things. So that's another way in which you can use a compressor. Now, let's talk about another compressor. And this one is the one that everybody knows about, the 1176. Okay, so the 1176 is a very fast compressor. It's a workhorse. That compressor is the compressor. If you were only to have one compressor, to me, that would be the compressor to have, because you could put it on a vocal. You could set the attack, you could set the release, the threshold, the amount of compression. So you got 4, 8. You got the all buttons in, and these are different ratios. So let me explain to you ratios. So once you set a threshold, so say I set a threshold here. And so if I have 4-to-1 compression, so that means that for every dB that goes above this threshold, it will compress 4 dB down. Okay? So again, for every 1 dB decibel that goes above my threshold, the compressor will press down or compress 4 dBs down. That's how a compressor works. Okay? So that right there is how the ratio works. And a lot of people don't want, they see the ratio but not necessarily understand how the ratio works. The other thing with a compressor, some compressors have this, is the attack and the release. So what the attack is, say for example I have a signal, okay, and I send that signal through, okay, it comes through my compressor. Now if I have let's say 0 millisecond, soon as the signal enters the compressor, right, it will start compressing. Well, with vocals and things of that nature, you want to hear the transient. That is the initial sound that comes through, like the, that's the initial. So I'll set for a rap vocal, I might set at 10 milliseconds, somewhere around there, just general. So that means that it won't start compressing until it gets 10 milliseconds in. Then, or maybe I should do it like this. So it'll wait till 10 milliseconds comes in, then it'll start compressing down. Okay, so you get the initial transient to come in. Okay, and that is how your attack time will work. So again, you have a signal, it enters into the compressor. Say you set it at 10 milliseconds, that means 10 milliseconds will go past, then it'll start compressing the signal. Okay, and that's what you want. So for a vocal, you need to have that. You need the initial transients to come through, because of the vocal is the main instrument of a song. The vocal, it transmits content, emotion, and consumers, that's what they purchase. Content and emotion. I mean, it's just like a movie. You want to see a movie with, like, if you're going to see an action movie, you want to see the action, the dynamics of it, what's going to happen. So that is what you want to purchase. You want to go on that roller coaster ride with this character. And that's the same thing with a vocal. You want to go on that roller coaster ride with that character. So for example, if you had a guy that was monotone, he was, being a lyricist, and hey, something, man, I went to the da. That was very boring. So next thing you know, you're going to be looking for the next record. But if you have another guy that comes in like you can feel that, you know what I mean? You can feel that, through your body, that the tone, the emotion, and then on top of that, if he has some content to deliver as well, that's even more special. So that vocal is the number one instrument in that sound landscape. Okay, and so that's why we want those transients to come through. So if you have a singer, and she's and she hits her big note, you know what I mean? You want to let that initial transient get through, but you're going to have a attack time that's going to be slower. So what I mean by that, you might have 20 milliseconds on her. So when she goes, and then when she hits that second thing, 20 milliseconds, then we'll start pushing her down. Okay? But the initial transient and that initial burst is going to get through. And that's what you want. So again, with the rapper, because it's a that was going to be quicker versus a smooth R&B singer or country singer. They're not going to be coming, their transients are going to be sharp like that. It's more smooth and it gains volume over time. And then, unlike the rap one where, I said like 10 milliseconds here, you might 18 or even 20 or something like that. So it'll catch you back here and then start pushing it down and maintaining that vocal. And so that is how you would use, or how a compressor uses attack time. Now let's talk about another section on a compressor, or some compressors anyway. Some have their own automatic thing in terms of attack and release, but some, most of them have a release function. At least the new ones today, they definitely have that. So release, let's talk about the release. So with a rap, I'm going to have a quick release. And what release means is, how long does it take for the compressor to recover? So, all right, so we talked about the 10 milliseconds. It came through, I started compressing, right? Now, if I have a slower release time, it's just going to keep on compressing. But notice the raps are, it has sharp transient. So if I set a short release time, that means it comes through 10 milliseconds, compresses, then it releases, and then the next transient comes through, right? It'll compress, then it'll release, and the same thing, it'll keep doing that. Now, if you have a rap vocal and you keep you have a long release time, it'll come through, say 10 milliseconds, it starts compressing, well, it'll stay in there. So all that, you'll miss that because you still have the release time going. And it doesn't have a chance to release and recover, so you hit the next transient. Okay? So with rap, you will want to have a shorter release time. Now, again, if you're using R&B and you're having smooth notes that are extended, So da 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 like that. You will want to have a longer release time to control that da da to keep that note in check. Because some, with singers, they'll increase that volume da da and go up. So you will use a longer release time on that particular one, and you might even have the attack time be longer. So instead of it being 10 milliseconds, you set it at 18. So it lets the initial transient come in, then it'll start compressing, and it'll keep compressing, then it'll release. But that's a longer, smoother note. And so that's the difference between R&B vocal and a rap vocal. Rap vocal, you're going to have a quicker attack time, quicker release time. R&B, you're going to have a slower attack time and usually a slower release time. Okay, and that's how you would use a compressor in that particular context. So again, we've gone over two ways. The first, like I said, using a Fairchild 670. A lot of people, we're not even using it for its capabilities to compress the signal. We're just using it usually a lot of times just for its tone. Okay. Now the other way, again, if you want to tame a vocal so you can have it sit front and center, because it is the main thing of a record is the vocal. That's your money maker there. So for you mixers or producers, remember, that's the money maker. Don't kill your vocal. Do not kill your vocal. All right. Another way is parallel compression. A lot of people try to use parallel compression, but they might not necessarily understand how to use parallel compression, but I'll try to simplify here for you. So with parallel compression, what that is, so say for example you have a rapper, whatever, a vocalist, wide dynamic range, and that's what you want. So say for example, Mariah Carey, her dynamic range is incredible. So she can go low and then she can go up into the stratosphere. So she has a wide dynamic range. So her thing could be like this, her vocal. It could be like this. Well, that's great for live, but in the context of a record, you need to tame that because it has to fit within the context of the musical landscape. So what we use is called parallel compression. So we're going to keep the initial recording with the wide dynamic range, right? We're going to keep that, but we're going to hypercompress the same track, but the same signal, but on a different track. So the same recording, but a different track. Hypercompressor. So instead of it having that wide dynamic range, we're going to smash it down here. Okay. So now it's just here. You know what I mean? So once you do that, the combination of those two, a lot of times can be incredible. So you can use that for vocal, guitar, bass guitar, kick drum. You can use it for a wide variety of material. But let me explain to you how it works. So you have this regular vocal with this wide dynamic range, okay? And you want to keep that. Remember that. The vocal, that's your money maker. Without the vocal, there's no story, there's no emotion. It's just some music. It's an instrumental. And I don't know too many people that just run out and get the new instrumental album that's coming out. They buy the vocalist. The vocal is the main thing. So anyway, you have this vocal, wide dynamic range, okay? It's doing its thing. Then you have this hyper-compressed track. That's the parallel one that we really smashed. So we have the wide dynamic range of the regular one, and then we slide this one in. So now we have the wide dynamic range, and we have the consistency of the hyper-compressed track. So that gives us consistency, plus we have the wide dynamic range, which means that we have the best of both worlds. And that's what a lot of music engineers are using to deal with a situation where you have a wide dynamic range on a vocal or an instrument, sax, whatever, and you want to still keep the dynamic range, but also you want to keep that centered so it is the focus of the song. And again, you can use that, if you're using it on a guitar, sax, Kenny G, things of that nature, David Sanborn, jazzy guys. That's how you would do that. So, and that is another way in which you could use a compressor. So the first one, for your old school compressors, you can use it for its tonal shape. That's one. Second one, you want to use your compressor just to hold the dynamic range within a certain situation, so it fits within the landscape of the record. And then a third way, again, we use parallel compression. That's when we have a wide dynamic range on an instrument, but then we put a hyper-compressed track underneath and blend the two. And so that way we have dynamic range plus we have that consistency of the hyper-compressed track. And that is 3 different ways in which you can use a compressor. So again, hit us up, criticalsoundlabs.com. Send us an email if you have any questions. But I appreciate your time. And also, don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there as well. You can get through that from our website. You go to tutorials, view 1-minute mix tips or whatever. And there's a lot of 1-minute mix tips. View those, and that'll take you to the YouTube channel where you can subscribe there as well. So appreciate your time, and you have a good day.